let's start with our solution sessions today. We invited Sabine Loos. Sabine Loos is the CEO of Westfalen Halle Dortmund. Westfalen Halle, you might know as a big concert venue. But there are several halls around this one big concert hall, and you might know Sabine even more for being the CEO of Best of Events as well. A German trade show for the MICE industry, for the exhibition and event industry. And well, we are all still crossing our fingers that we will have this show happening in June, beginning of June this year. But Sabine will tell us on the one hand side something about Best of Events, but on the other hand side, her experience on, well, how to run a show in these times, what you have to prepare, and well, maybe she has the same feeling as some of us do have, that the German government is not really helpful at certain moments when you try to run a show or you want to open business again. Well, the stage is yours, Sabine, and great to have you.
Thank you, Uta, for the opening words and for today's invitation. And with that, first of all, let me say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, listeners and IFES members, depending on where you're watching this. I'm delighted that we are coming together today to address the topic of strategies of reopening. Naturally, at Dortmund Exhibition Center, we have our own take on the trade fair situation in Germany. So what has happened in this country over the past 13 months? And what's the current political status? Hopefully, a lot will be decided soon when the German government holds its next Corona summit, despite today's summit unfortunately having been postponed. Will trade fairs and events then be allowed to be held, or will the event ban stay in place? And then, importantly, there's also the strategic view, which I want to move on into a moment. What have event organizers eventually and actually been doing proactively to promote a restart as we enter the post-COVID era? Which hygiene master plans have proven successful, and new actions and measures are conceivable going forward? And in the final part of my talk, I will of course take a look at the various trade fair formats themselves. Where has digitalization made its mark, and where is it likely to grow? What do we mean by the term hybridization? Is this a term you now hear mentioned in all sectors across the world? But what does it mean for the various trade fair formats? For fairs that are open to the public, for trade visitors only exhibitions, for conservative industries, and for industries populated by digital natives. If you look at the numbers, one thing is now clear. 1 year after the outbreak of the corona pandemic, the trade fair and event industry, the hotel industry, the catering industry, and the entire global tourism industry are suffering the most massive losses as a result of actions to hold off the spread of coronavirus. This is also evident in Germany. The majority of our business models are based on physical presence. They need visitors, customers, and participants on site. The absence of hotel guests, restaurant visitors, and in particular trade fair attendees can only be replaced to a limited extent, and sometimes not at all, by alternative formats. Takeaway meals and enjoying proper restaurant food at home, the growing e-commerce sector, and doing the supermarket run online. These niches have been experiencing huge growth, and not just over the last few months either. They've also succeeded in grabbing revenues that would otherwise have gone elsewhere. And in all probability, it sees that we have changed people's buying behavior permanently. Of that, I'm convinced. Nonetheless, there will also be setbacks here comparable to those in the stock market. Because one thing has come through very clearly after 13 or so months of Corona, is that people now want to set about planning their leisure activities once more. They want to visit trade fairs, attending events physically, and go on live concerts again. This is clearly noticeable, especially in times where personal freedoms are being curtailed. And it's also something we're seeing in our discussions with customers, exhibitors, associations, and partners. Unfortunately, the reality of the pandemic is different, and it's evident when you look at Dortmund, for example. Overnight stays in the Dortmund area in 2020 were over 53% down on 2019. That's 500,000 fewer hotel guests. COVID-19 has effectively put Dortmund's accommodation sector back to levels last seen in 2003. Of course, that isn't just a regional thing. Its effects are being felt across Germany's entire tourism industry. Experts currently put the revenue dip at 1 million euros per week. And yet the economic signs in Germany at the beginning of last year were very favorable indeed. The Westfalen Group and its subsidiaries, Dortmund Exhibition Center, launched into 2020 in fine fettle and was well ahead of budget in Q1 as a whole. But the pandemic tightened its grip in the first wave, and during the first lockdown 13 months ago, current figures show that the entire event, trade fair and event industry in this country saw revenues drop by 80 and in places 90%. For us too, 2020 will go down in history as the year with the lowest number of events. Right now, in our industry, this actually begs several questions. When can trade fairs and events be held again in the near future? What steps are needed to enable this reopening to happen? And what hygiene master plans are needed as we relaunch? When it comes to the question of when, our industry has had to accept repeated setbacks in recent days and weeks due to political decisions and due to the way the pandemic has been developing. Europe is in the midst of the third wave. France announced a hard shutdown a few weeks ago. The entire Czech Republic, Slovakia and Sweden are now considered high incidence areas. And all of Benelux and Italy have also been reclassified as high incidence or high risk areas. I could go on and on. In Germany too, current developments surrounding the corona pandemic have shown that it will be very difficult to prepare for a larger number of trade fairs events in summer 2021, with a large degree of certainty. The extension of lockdown as de facto event ban imposed by politicians and continuing travel restrictions will in particular make it impossible to hold international trade fairs and public exhibitions in the coming weeks. Optimism is justified where the necessary signals are forthcoming out our political decision makers, as may already be the case. More on that is in a moment. The vaccination programs now kicking in, however haltingly in Europe, and improved testing will contribute significantly to revival in the event sector. We are firmly convinced on this and are preparing our trade fairs and event calendars accordingly for the remainder of 2021. On the questions of what steps are needed to enable this reopening, the key here for the trade fair and event industry in Germany will be the political signals going forward. And their most recent conferences, the federal and state governments have been unable to present the trade fair industry with a tangible prospect for reopening. Even the vague prospect of further consultation and with its signal going forward is a huge problem. Nothing were remarked on a reopening. And to make it very clear, the lack of presentation and sales platforms means business opportunities are being lost hand over fist, especially for small and medium-sized businesses, both in Germany and elsewhere. Nearly 3/4 of German companies abroad are suffering as a result of trade fairs being cancelled. This can be seen in things like the current Going International 2021 survey. 1 year from on now, the start of the global pandemic, the effects are still having an adverse impact on the export business of German companies. Aside from travel restrictions, German companies are pointing to cancelled trade fairs as a bigger drag factor to the exports. There's a need for a phased opening and planning tied to corona incidence figures. In some cases, we have seen the first tentative steps here in Germany being taken by museums, galleries, zoos, and outdoor cafes and restaurants. These have been moves in the right direction, but given the testing strategies, growing vaccination numbers, and our excellent hygiene master plans, it's clear that the politicians have unfortunately not thought the situation through to its logical conclusion. That's why all eyes will be on Berlin in the weeks ahead. The German trade fair industry, exhibiting companies, organizers, and trade fair services providers expect a political prospect on relaunching. This opportunity must not be wasted again. Politicians have to get away from always making decisions on a 3 or 4 week time horizon. As an industry, we need solutions that enable planning certainty and cater for long lead times. The trade fair industry in particular, with its great overall economic importance for Germany as an exporting nation, requires planning certainty. Fair venues, too, have been doing their homework. Let me home in on this issue on the hygiene master plans and move swiftly on to our third question. For the past 13 months, our industry has been dealing with the challenge of assessing and reassessing a variety of developments in the pandemic. Last autumn, trade fairs and congresses were allowed to take place on our premises for a short time subject to certain conditions, as well as Creativa of her friends, Vaperscom or others also took place at Dortmund Exhibition Center with a well thought out #BeSafe, Hygiene Protection Master Plan. So it can be done. And that's not all. The feedback from exhibitors and visitors were extremely good. In fact, people felt safer with us than in many a supermarket queue, where jostlers often fail to observe social distancing rules. For us organizers, there's of course additional expense. This is because in Germany we are challenged primarily at the local level and must work together with the local authorities to develop a comprehensive hygiene master plan. Right now, requirements have been reached sizable proportions. All ticket sales are now done online. Registration with personal contact details is mandatory for admission to our events. The data must be retained in compliance with privacy regulations and held available for a period of 4 weeks for use by Dortmund City Health Department. They have to keep an ongoing eye on visitor numbers, also ensuring that social distancing at a minimum of 1.5 meters is maintained at all times. Security services must be trained accordingly and regulate visitor flows when necessary. Of course, any modern hygiene protection master plan also has to include the wearing of mouth and nose coverings throughout to protect participants during the events. There are scenes to which people are over the world have now become normal. Another key point is maintaining the minimum distance of 1.5 meters. Firstly, this calls for appropriate notices on the premises. Floor stickers in heavily frequented areas show the proper minimum distance to be kept. Secondly, the hygiene master plan includes a requirement to check whether areas need to be enlarged or aisles made wider. The primary goal is to ensure the necessary safety distancing, the be-all and end-all of virus control, as we know. Then come other measures. These include contactless payment as well as enlarged guest spaces in the refreshment and hospitality areas. Disinfected dispensers are available at the key locations of the exhibitor grounds, including at the exhibitor stands. Regularly touched surfaces on the premises are subjected to any stricter cleaning regime. Ventilation is also important. Our event halls are equipped with modern ventilation systems that ensure the air is renewed continuously in order to reduce the incidence of airborne droplets. And in addition to adjusting seating arrangements and numbers of seats, preparing routing with separate entrances and exits has long since become part of our daily routine. Looking at the current situation, we see no room for relaxing our hygiene master plans. Quite the opposite. We are convinced that there's probably more to come. In the coming months, we in Germany will be called upon to enhance the measures and regulations currently in force and to adapt them to the latest standards. Of course, not until the politician details of opening strategies are also known. Our key watchword, of course, the whole topic of rapid testing. This will most likely be added to the current list of measures. Indeed, it's recently been used successfully at Dortmund Exhibition Center, for example, at political conventions and at the IFOI test days. Antigen rapid tests have been and will be carried out before entering the exhibition halls. Those who test positive for COVID are shepherded out of the entrance area via a separate exit. And our new rapid test center with a multi-lane drive-in facility has also launched on our premises last week for the people of Dortmund and also for our employees and future exhibition guests and visitors at upcoming events. Here you have two different options in this country. First, there's a citizen-free test. Here people can get tested once a week for free. Additional antigen tests, rapid tests, can be taken and are payable. The process is simple and it's fully computerized. As soon as visitors have registered, they receive an automatic email from our system containing a QR code with which they can use to attend the time slot they have booked. This shortens waiting times even during peak periods. The test results is sent automatically by email afterwards. As a rule, the first results are available after only 15 minutes. Individuals who test positive are contacted immediately. And together with a more concerted testing strategy, of course, raising the global vaccination rate is the name of the game in the months and years ahead. Increasing so-called herd immunity will have the biggest impact on our ability to revitalize the event sector. What form might this take here in practice? In order to facilitate travel within the European Union for COVID vaccinated individuals despite the corona pandemic, the EU Commission has plans for a digital vaccination card. In addition to the vaccination data, like surname, first name, date of birth, passport number, date of first or second vaccination, vaccination agency and type of vaccine, the idea is for the digital vaccination card to hold data on corona tests taken and, where relevant, any recovery from a COVID-19 infection. How might checks be performed and how forgery-proof is this whole thing? Political plans are afoot for local inspectors, for example, airport staff, border officials, or even private sector inspection bodies, to have an inspection app running on their devices. This app will store all trusted public keys that may be used to sign vaccination certificates. Accordingly, we are already working at full speed with our technology service providers to ensure that our platform are positioned well to handle this. Our conceptual design also includes suitable digital interfaces. If the politicians succeed in creating a binding legal framework here, perhaps as early as 1st of June, we will already be in the starting blocks. After 30 months of pandemic, it is high time that the EU finally pick up speed. And this brings us to the diary dates mentioned at the beginning and new formats that are currently emerging. Naturally, we are aware, and as organizers, we are conscious of this every day, that we are facing a situation which is packed full of challenges. But the crisis has also shown that many things are possible if we tackle them together and move forward with creative approaches. There's no doubt that the corona pandemic is accelerating all projects and plans relating to digitalization. We are also experiencing this change very strongly and are working behind the scenes on projects relating to trade industry formats at our venue. Over the past few months, we've had the opportunity to participate in virtual and online events formats, especially for the live communication segment. This is, of course, a special challenge when it comes to presenting the subject matter and possibilities online. We are very much pursuing the hybrid approach in our planning. The focus on our conceptual design work here is on a physical trade fair experience supplemented in future by creative online offerings built around user requirements. The trade fair as an event location is our strength. Adding digital offerings and features can be a very good way to enable visitors to attend easily even in times of travel restrictions. The important thing here is to offer visitors interactive experiences, thereby providing the relevant industry with a platform for interaction. The road to BOE already marked the start of this in January. Until the fair gets underway, this series of digital events will deliver interesting lectures, top-class expert talks, and cutting-edge insight from and for the industry. With BOE, we are of course in a comfortable situation in terms of being ready for the digital scenario. Many of the exhibitors and companies had been quite a way down this road before Corona hit and have been busily computerizing products, processes, and propositions. As is customary for an exhibition venue, our trade fair formats offer a lot of variety. This also includes fairs that have not yet made a particularly strong entry into the digital sector. For these fairs, more than ever, they will not be able to be taken into the digital world as it was, but will still have to take place physically inside exhibition halls. This will be flanked by supplementary offerings on all sides. For visitors and exhibitors alike, there are features such as matchmaking, open exchange for various topics related to the trade fair, lead tracking, knowledge transfer, etc., etc. For us as organizers, the digital edition offers new marketing potential that could be welcome and be attractive in the long time. It is therefore crucial to adapt continuously and refine each fair to the needs of its partners, exhibitors, and visitors. To this end, we are in close contact with the players, some of them in very different sectors, in order to plan fairs together with them and take all factors into account. To limit the future debate on hybridization alone would be fall short of what's required. Of course, even before Corona, we were already moving very strongly towards digitalization. In recent years, both in trade fairs and in our internal processes, we have already begun to become more efficient through the use of interfaces and similar projects. Looking at the potential hybrids event also requires us to position our human resources accordingly, and we are able to handle these new formats with all the requirements they bring with them. From IT infrastructure to new communication channels through which we will conduct our trade fairs in the future, there's a whole range of developments we are really looking forward to. What is definitely set to remain? Our location in Dortmund, which we hope will soon be able to resume its role as a great place to get together and to do business. We are encouraged by what we see in China. After months of uncertainty, the trade fair business has there already started up again. Sophisticated trade fairs involving 2,000 exhibitors and 150,000 visitors have already been held there again since last autumn. This shows that digital events currently have an important role to play and maintain customer contact and conveying information. However, exhibitors mainly pursue goals that can largely only be achieved at real live trade events. The most important reason for companies to participate in real life fairs is the human interaction, face-to-face contact, followed up by the process of generation leads, holding product presentations and winning new customers. Networking, image promotion, and nurturing customer relationships on site at the exhibition center are all ingredients for doing a great business. Of course, the same goes for BOE International. The January 2021 event was already postponed due to the pandemic. The legal framework and restrictions due to the pandemic made it impossible to hold this event. We are aware of the serious situation in which the event and experience marketing industry finds itself, and which is threatening livelihoods. Therefore, the risk of having to cancel BOE at short notice must be ruled out early on. Of course, it also applies to subsequent events during the crisis. Until the next fair takes place, Road to BOE will curtail the amount of time the industry has to wait. The program is set to be varied and exciting, and I touched on this briefly earlier. This digital campaign gives the industry a first taste of how trade fairs may be experienced physically in future, transferring some elements to digital formats, thereby also opening them to a global access, anytime, anywhere, just like our meeting today. BOE is an important step on the road towards hybrid trade fairs. Especially in the event industry, we have players who are online natives, people who are very quick to track down and take advantages of digital offerings. The integration, of course, remains the same, to experience new trends up close. Yeah, thank you. So far, my speech and my ideas about reopening BOE and the drama we experience in Germany.
Thank you, Sabine. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat function. So those who want to ask, here we are. How do you train the digital novices? So those who are attending the first time and digital trade show. If they have to go digital for the first time, yeah, we have a lot of digital first timers going to a trade show. Do you offer any kind of training to them?
Yes, we do. We have like webinars for exhibitors to prepare them how to prepare for going online and optimizing their presence on internet. I think that is very, very important. A lot of them are not familiar with how presenting. And I think that's one of the most interesting challenges we will have to handle and to succeed in the next few weeks and months and maybe years.
Question from Vicky from another trade show organizer from TF5, so from Thessaloniki. What measures do you take for the days of construction and dismantling? So build up and tear down of the stands.
Yeah, do you think that we have, is it the question if we have any changes in the
well,
or how we prepare our exhibitors for the
Hi, Sabine.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. The only question is, does everything that you mentioned, like 1.5 meters distances and time slots, etc., does it also work for the people who build the stands? So if you have 2, 3, 5 days before, whatever, they need to follow the same rules, right?
Procedure. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, okay.
Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. No, of course, that means exactly the same procedure and rules for exhibitors and for the mantling and dismantling
Okay.
procedure. That means we prepare for testing exhibitors, all the stuff, everybody. And we have additional stuff in the halls to make sure that the mouth and nose protection is weared, and that the distancing is can be controlled. Yeah, yeah, that's tough. That's hard, but I think it's important to make sure that an event can be successful.
Which means, if I heard it properly, that you oblige every person who wishes to enter the exhibition center to have a rapid test or something like this.
Yes,
right.
we're prepared. I mean, at least, or in the end, it depends on the political decisions which are made. But I'm really expecting, if tests will be accepted for a reopening for visitors, and it's obliged, or every visitor is obliged to make a test, then of course it will be also obligatory for all exhibitors and the whole procedure of mantling and dismantling. Yeah, and even for our own employees. Yeah.
Well, Germany started today with a new law on forcing employers that we have to offer tests to employees. So you have to offer to employees a test twice a week. This gets obligatory. I don't know when, probably within the next week or beginning of next
Yeah.
week or something like this.
In which sectors?
All
sectors. All sectors, yeah. It's not yet finalized, Uta, if I'm well informed, but we're preparing for this procedure.
Well,
already.
Latest news I saw on the news on Spiegel Online is that we will have to get ready.
Okay. Then we do this with pleasure.
Oh yeah, you know, if this is the only problem, yeah.
If this would, yes, if this would be the way for reopening, or we would do this with pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah. Sabine, another question. Do you have already any good examples for hybrid or online formats? Are exhibitors and visitors happy, or didn't you run so far any hybrid or online show in Dortmund?
We have quite positive experience with both, with hybrid events, and we're preparing to develop this further. But at least what we feel, as soon as we come back to be able to realize face-to-face events, it's much more wanted, and people want to get in contact. What we feel, and the feedback we get from the hybrid events, that people on internet prefer to consume information. They're not so much interested in interaction.
Mm-hmm.
That's one experience. So they prefer just to follow a conversation and decide how long they want to follow, and which offer they want to accept. But they're not so interested in really matchmaking. What we feel is the exhibitors would of course have a lot of contact and interaction with visitors, but it's not vice versa. That's our feedback and our experience.
Okay.
Well, the question: who is they?
Visitors were attending a hybrid event on internet.
Why would they not be interested in interaction? That's what I don't know.
Some of them are, but the most part just prefers to listen and to jump into a program, and they're not so extremely focused on interaction. Of course, we have interaction, no question, but if you see them, how many people are interested in interaction, how many are just want to listen, it's the most part are not so interested in active interaction. That's the feedback we have.
But you have interaction between hybrid or online exhibitors and visitors in Belgium. Is this what you're stating?
The experience we have is that we have had dedicated fairs done by the brands themselves. And the 2 or 3 clients we had doing this were really trying to find solutions for the interactions themselves, because what's the difference between an interactive booth and your website? There's absolutely no difference, because most of the time you can even say, go to my website because it looks better. So what the thing is that we have always been trying to solve for them is what is the added value to your website, which makes the fair become interactive. And that's why we have always sought for solutions in which they have breakaway things on subjects, and which they can talk to salespeople, they can talk about different applications of products, etc. So is what we have here in Belgium. Could be completely different in the rest of the world. I'm just speaking from our experience.
Okay.
We share the same experience. So that is what our clients are seeking for, be it an exhibitor or visitor. I would change the terms into client anyway, but that is what our people want. One is offering something, the other one is seeking for something, and without interaction, it's not a good thing to happen. So a deal will not take place if the interaction is lacking. So that is what we define as a hybrid version of events anyway. No interaction, then nothing's going to happen. So that's what is wanted, at least. So it depends on the solution that the target audience is picked
Probably.
up. Of course, yeah.
The hybrid part, of course, is also the fact that if we go to really hybrid, where we actually build something, but we have an online presence at the same time, is that we have a lead in which we make people want to come to the actual booth itself. And then we have a lead out, which is in time unlimited, in which they can say, oh, I saw this, and how does that apply to that, and stuff like that. So that's the added value of digital. For now, we're digital only, but once we get going again, that's what we will have to sell, is a package in which we have a lead in, the actual fair itself, where you can talk to humans and face-to-face to humans. And then afterwards, I did have a thought, and that wouldn't fit, and how would you solve this problem for me? So that's the it's a triple whammy.
Yeah, of course. We were prepared in a similar way, of course. If real events can take place again,
Yeah, well, this is what we experienced from Shanghai, that as soon as trade shows got back, that the exhibitor were key to exhibit and to be face-to-face, and digitalization stepped back quite a bit. So this is a bridge technology, and we have to bridge the time for sure to get back to shows, and we have add-ons on shows, but in general we will probably see quite a few people really want to be face-to-face and have face-to-face meetings, not only on a screen. Barte, anything you want to comment? Okay. So, other question. Talking to exhibitors, Sabine, do they understand the system of German federalism with these different situations of what does the national government, so the chancellor and the ministries are doing, what are the federal states are doing, and well, at the end, it's the Dortmund Gesundheitsamt, so the healthcare authority in Dortmund, which decides if a show can run or not. Does anybody from abroad understand this?
No, not really. I would say the Germans understand it, of course, because we are grown up and used to the system. But for people from abroad, it's very, very difficult to understand. And what I think is also interesting is that exhibitors from Germany are much more doubtful about having real events than people from or exhibitors from abroad. We ask our exhibitors before if they want to have a real event, a live show. And the interesting thing was the most part of the German exhibitors were doubtful about shall we have the real event, yes or no? And they were more afraid of doing this. And the people from abroad, almost 70% had no problems with coming to Germany and exhibiting. So the decision, if we decide or when we decided to cancel a show, it was most, of course, based on decisions of the politicians, but also on the position of the German exhibitors, less of the foreign exhibitors. I think that's quite interesting.
Well, foreigners trust the German authorities more than we do.
Probably, yes.
Or themselves do.
Yeah, that seems to me like this, yeah.
Which is, well, it's not really funny. It's rather frustrating than funny.
It's more than frustrating, yes, it is.
So if I can ask Sabine, hi, what will happen if in Germany, part of Germany will allow it and others will not allow it?
That's what is.
That's what we call revolution, Peter, right?
Yeah, I know, but.
No, I would say that's reality in Germany. So we have really not regarding trade shows, but even for trade shows we had different rules. In one federal state it's allowed, in the other one it's not allowed, or we have different conditions. Once you have the rules are stricter than in other federal states. Mm-hmm. So it's a kind of bizarre for all of us to deal with that.
Okay.
So
the federal government is changing rules now, Sabine, isn't it? So they want to kind of synchronize that, right, for the entire country.
Yes, they want to do that, and in a certain way it makes sense, because otherwise you don't understand what's going on in the different federal states. That's a kind of, it's really more than bizarre for all of us. And what shall we say, our exhibitors, if we have to say, no, here it's not allowed, but to drive 100 kilometers further and you can exhibit?
We have 7 governments, so.
But you're lucky you don't have a government so far, yeah? Maybe this helps.
Well, no, those are the best periods when we don't have one.
When do you actually expect that we have opening strategies for German trade shows? Well, UK has them, for example. Other countries do have them. Do you expect that we get them? And if you do, when do you expect that we will have them here?
It's a question. Yes, it's a very tricky question. I'm not so optimistic until the summer. I think we have to face that we have still huge problems. If you look at the infection scenario, it's not very, you have not many aspects to be positive. But we hope in autumn, maybe, and hopefully we can come back. Our calendar is full. We are prepared to restart. And I always say it's not a problem of the exhibiting industry or of the event organizers. We are prepared. We can do it. We just need the political sign to be able to start again. And we're waiting for this. So I hope maybe in autumn, we hopefully can come back with some events.
Keep our fingers crossed.
We keep our fingers crossed. Yeah, of course, we are already targeted by the decisions of the exhibitors. If they say we need some months to prepare, you know, we cannot build up a big exhibition in a few days or a few weeks. So the companies need security for the plannings. And so we already had some negative impact for trade fairs that should be held in autumn. We had to cancel them already. But my hope is that maybe for more regional exhibitions or for more conservative branches or for B2C events, it might be the possibility to reopen and to start again.
Well, we are all desperately looking into this direction. Yeah.
Yes.
So any further question from the audience? It's your chance. Raise your hand or give us short notice on the chat. So far, no further questions. In case they occur, we will forward them to you. And at this point, many thanks, Sabine, for this. Sorry,
one practical question, if I might. If you do have a planning as it exists, are you sharing that with us, Sabine, or is that kept internal, or because we sometimes need to work in Germany as well, and we need to know what's going on, and not hear from our clients what's going on what they're supposing that's going on. Sometimes information is lacking.
Aha, okay. Yeah, that's a good advice. We will take care of this. Of course, we can inform you if we prepare to restart. So you have enough time to prepare yourself as well, and maybe contact your clients and be proactive in getting forward.
If you could share this with Uta, and Uta shares this with us, I think that prevents you from sending 17 emails.
Very good idea, Uta. We will stay in contact. Anyway, and so we can share this information. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Happy to give you all the knowledge we have, and that we are collecting the knowledge and sharing it to our audience. And I'm sure that first opening signals will be causing a big party. Each service provider, same for you, probably same for us, and keep our fingers crossed that opening will come sooner than later. And so far at this point, thanks, Sabine. Thanks for giving us these insights from an organizer's perspective, because you know it's always easy to blame organizers that they are not running trade shows, but knowing all the political disturbances in the background and all these question marks you have to struggle with helps to understand why decisions are taken the way they are taken. And this point, you're for sure speaking for the whole exhibition industry, for all organizers and venue owners. So thanks a million for that. To start the promotion part for the next solution session, it will be a joint session together with our colleagues from ESSA, from the British Association. So we are talking about what kind of services and products our exhibitors, our clients are looking for in the future. Happy to have you, happy to have your team there, Sabine. And of course, all our members are more than welcome to join the session again. It will be in 2 weeks' time on Monday, same time, so 2:30 Central European Summer Time, which is UTC +2.
Thank you, Uta.
Thank you, Sabine. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful afternoon. And yeah, thanks for taking your time.
Bye-bye.